Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. I am your host, Ben Crossman, and welcome into a Friday edition of the show. I hope all of you are having a great day so far and that we can help take you out of the work week and into, of course, the long weekend. And actually, that brings into mind something I should have been saying for the entire week but have been remiss to do so, and that is Computer America will not have a live show Monday. That's right, Monday, let me get the exact date, but of course, Memorial Day for everyone out there who is more on top of this than I am, but Monday, May 29th, Computer America will not have a live show. Instead, we will be playing a Best of Computer America. Best of course, being code for, hey, one of our recent shows, but you know, that's fun in case you missed it. If it's new to you, then it's new altogether. So, with that being said, welcome into the program, and before we get started with our guest, who should be no stranger to the regulars here, we have Popzara.com, and of course Nathan Evans, he is the managing editor, and before we get to him, I have a few things I want to mention, including ComputerAmerica.com. For all the show notes, we have links to all the articles, and everything that we're going to talk about today will be available again over at ComputerAmerica.com. And also, while you're there, be sure to check out the live streaming video because, hey, you know, it's another way to experience Computer America. And lastly is our social media contest. Although, when you are checking it out today, although, of course, if you're listening to it today, we already chose a winner. That's right. We have a winner for our social media contest, and we are giving away an M720 Logitech mouse. Very happy to partner up with Logitech to give that away, and the winner has been picked. We'll announce them later on in the show, and don't worry, we'll have another contest all set up and ready to go tomorrow, and of course give away every Friday. So check that out as well. Now, with all that out of the way, the thumping and bumping in the background is indeed our guest, and I want to welcome him on once again. Again, he is a regular correspondent, always fun to have on, Nathan Evans. Nate, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Ben, and I got out of bed for this.
I know. As I understand it, you're getting over a cold. It's okay. You sound great, but happy that you're feeling better. It must be going around because, we actually had about 3 correspondents who all had a cold at some point. It must be going around.
I'm on more medications than the average Hollywood celebrity, so it's gonna be an interesting hallucinogenic weekend.
That's going to be fun. And as you know, they give the best interviews. So let's see what happens. So, like I said, though, this is going to be a lot of fun because we have a lot of great topics. So I think before we even get into this, why don't we go over your credentials and what is Popzara and what qualifies, as managing editor of Popzara to comment on what we're about to talk about. What do you do over at Popzara?
Well, what is Popzara? What is life? What is the sound of one hand clapping? What is this? What is the what is the portmanteau of a fake word? No, it's as your listeners probably know, the ones who haven't blocked you or blocked me on Twitter yet, it is a online magazine. In the words of the founder of your great institution, Popzara magazine,
Right?
we cover a little bit of everything. We cover a little bit of everything without snark. We try to be a little optimistic. Try to keep the politics to a minimum. Try to keep the advertising to a bare minimum. Although, hey, if you want to advertise, call me. But no, it's a little bit of fun. It's like when you go to most websites, they make you feel obligated and get you that frustration, like, oh, I gotta like this and I gotta like that. With Popzara, we have a green dinosaur with an M. Bison hat. Try getting mad at that.
Exactly, and that's a whole other topic that we could get into about all the ways that websites are trying to put themselves up behind walls, and they have subscribers. Think of like the New York Post the Washington Post and other websites like that. Although it doesn't work, there's some very easy workarounds, but No, Popzara free, Computer America free, everything here,
Hey,
just good fun. So
the sharing community. Hey, let me ask you a quick question though, real
sure.
quick. Let me make you and everybody else a little happier. So, do you like McDonald's?
I yes, I have been
Yeah,
guilty.
don't even
Yes,
deny it. Come on, we all
yes,
like
yes,
McDonald's.
yes.
Well, have you seen that? A couple of weeks ago, the new Mario Kart came out for the Switch, and so everything with Nintendo, Target, McDonald's. I mean, you can hate McDonald's all you want, but when you go in there, when you're a grown man or woman, and you go in there and you can get a toy that does this. Hold on, let me do this toy. Let me see. Ready? Can you
Yep.
get mad at
Right.
this? See, it's cute. It's
I
cute for like 5 times, and then it's horrible every other time after that.
Well, it's good because I know that children who receive these toys are show great restraint in toys, and they never play them to excess. So,
I like
what
how
was
Ben
that?
thinks children buy these things.
Well, right, but what was that?
That was the one-up mushroom from Super Mario Brothers. It has a battery that you cannot remove. So if you're a parent who buys one of these things, whether you buy the Super Mario or the Mario thing or, whatever, or anything with Mario on it, remember you can the only way to get the battery out is to break it. So yay!
Okay
But
then.
it's fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Yeah, and McDonald's they always have it comes in waves, but they always have a toy that usually captures the nation every every year or so. They come out with some really really cool promotions. So obviously the One Up Mario ties in with, I assume, the Switch, and I believe like Mario Party's coming out or came out.
It is amazing that the world's largest retail chain bases its entire philosophy of selling toys on the way crack dealers sell crack. First taste is free, but the rest you got to pay. Yeah, it's based on Super Mario. It's based on a vague Super Mario IP, but basically it's to celebrate Mario Kart on the Switch, which sold incredibly well for that new system. So
Okay.
everybody wins except parents
Absolutely.
and their
Absolutely.
pocketbooks.
Absolutely. So great. And, but that was definitely an out of the way. So, yeah, we have a couple of topics here. And when Nathan comes on, he finds a variety of topics that are, that are new, that are affecting all of us, and that we always get into. It's a lot of fun to, of course, talk about. And by the way, if anyone here would like to comment, unfortunately, we don't do live calls right now, but I will say that if you want to comment on anything that we do, you can of course visit Popzara, and you can find his email address there and yell at him through there, or you can email us at live@computeramerica.com, and we'll get your message out on the air after the fact. But yeah, so I think the first one we're going to start with is this little startup company, Amazon, and how they're just breaking into groceries, or at least they have been groceries, but now they have a new way to give you those groceries. So, I mean, why? And I'm pretty sure this is just in Seattle at the moment. But why did this kind of catch your attention?
I know, isn't it great that little startups like Amazon can compete in this crowded marketplace
It's
without fear of
wonderful.
being crushed by giant monopolies?
It's
But
wonderful.
you know, I suppose it's true in some certain way that Amazon is a startup in the grocery market, having crushed their enemies and driven before them like Conan on in every other market. But if you think about it though, Amazon's opening up a grocery store, which is just an evolution of the stuff they've already been doing. If you're an Amazon Plus subscriber, you probably know that besides Prime, they have all sorts of funky tags like Amazon Fresh, Amazon this. I know on Popzara we have at least one editor who has way too much money. You know who you are. He's been on your show, and he likes to have cookies delivered to him from Amazon. And he lives in one of these test markets where they deliver cookies to you. Well, of course, the next step is, well, let's have a grocery store, because Amazon's been experiencing the other big news story, which wasn't quite as big or cool, is that Amazon's opening up physical bookstores,
Right.
which is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because they've destroyed all their competition. But that being said, when your company works like Standard Oil did in 1920, this is what happens. You flatten the landscape and you rebuild it in your image. It's called conquest. It's been going on forever. So, what's funny though? I don't mind. Amazon's been pretty good. The idea that we need to revolutionize the grocery store is pretty interesting because honestly, Ben, when's the last time you saw technology in a grocery store that wasn't like that Mario mushroom? All it did was make noise at you and make a sound, and you get your coupon. But no, this is pretty cool.
Tech.
Amazon's got some interesting ideas.
Right. I mean, technology in grocery stores at this moment, if you've been to, well, at least I know at my local Walmart, As much fun as it is to shop at Walmart. But yeah, they're using technology, but they're using technology in the way to either A, make you do your own work, as in check yourself out at the at the self checkout grocery line, or they're using technology to kind of be in your face, because the end caps that used to be little display stands now are all screens that yell at you every time
Yes.
you walk by. It's like, hey, try this product. Like, technology in grocery stores, I think what Amazon has been showing off, not just with this, and we're going to get into what makes an Amazon grocery store different, but Amazon also recently, and by recently I mean a few months ago, came out with a self-serve a convenience store kind of like thing. And
Yes.
and I think that kind of technology is exciting. The technology that we see nowadays is annoying from other vendors.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought up the Mario mushroom, because it's cute for like a second, and then I have a friend who lives in an area with a Walmart that's very progressive as far as technology goes. They're one of the test markets where they put all this annoying crap in,
Hmm.
and they have this machine, and you go to the machine. It's like, come here, get a sample, and you look at the screen, you answer a question, and it goes, and it makes this loud, bing, and it drops a treat. It drops a treat, and he said, "This is the coolest thing." I said, "That's the hamster wheel at Harvard." Like, that's what they're doing. They're treating you like hamsters. Like, you watch the screen and it bings like a Pavlov machine, like Pavlovian response, and it goes bing, and it drops a treat.
I
We're
mean,
we're rodents.
there are literally dog treat dispensers that kind of keep your dog entertained while they're home alone, that do the exact same thing.
Well, you know what's cool though? I have two minds of this. One, let's be honest. Technology is going to do one of two things. It will rapidly reduce the amount of people working in grocery stores. This will happen. If you don't believe me, go to any gas station, go to any convenience store, go to anywhere. The more machines you get, the less people that work there, because the machines typically do a better job. They're not sullen and they answer your questions. That being said, when you go to the grocery store, Ben, you ever notice every damn product in that store has a UPC label?
Hmm.
Everything has a UPC label. You can take that UPC label, go home, type that thing into Google, and you'll see the product. They're all in agreement about what these things do.
Individual
So
bananas have them at this point.
yes, they
Yeah,
do. Individual bananas. By the way, every food product has a code. You know
yeah,
that?
oh
Every
yeah.
food product has a code. Yeah, it's all tied into these automated. It's everything's the method is there. It reminds me, we've talked about on the show about NFC machines and how it took forever for these things to actually work. Well, it's because of grocery stores, because there's no centralized system. There's no Steve Jobs, or forgive me for saying this, Jeff Bezos, to round everything up and demand profit from it. And Bezos himself is the second richest man in the world. At
I,
some point, either with Bill Gates going, he'll die, or some Mexican telecommunications guy will come back up and take his place. At some point, Bezos will be the richest man in the world. Not necessarily because he's got one product, but because he's got all products. And the idea that he can revolutionize is interesting to me, because think about it. Theft device prevention at any store, including Walmart, consists of three things: cameras, sensors, and fat men with guns. You ever notice that? You ever
yeah.
see a fit security guy?
It's
No,
yeah. It's
doesn't have.
we're not going to get into
They don't. Hey,
poking fun
they
at
don't
them.
hire the best. And what I'm saying is, why can't we have sensors that sense things? Like, think about it. Microsoft was talking about this years ago, that they were going to have a grocery cart where you put things in the grocery cart and it scans your product in the grocery cart. So when you go to the checkout, you're done. You know, why can't we do this store wide? There's a lot of interesting, cool things that can be done with this technology that are not being done.
I think,
So
and by the way, for anyone out there who wants a little bit of homework, if you go back and check, I believe it was Tuesday's show. Don't quote me on that, but it would be in the show notes. But we did a show, or we did an article, talking about how in the next, and this was done by some independent think tank, whatever. But they said that within the next 10 years, 6 to 7.5 million jobs will be lost primarily in retail due to automation, because just like you're outlining here, Nathan, is that the cashier, or the person working the register, is the most easily automated part of the entire process.
yes, you are that little piece on your shoelace that holds the tip of the shoelace together. You're not really necessary. So the fact is this. This is going to sound political. I swear to God, it's not. I see all these people protesting. Oh, give us, raise the minimum wage, $15. God bless you. I know you want more money, but you have to realize that your entire industry is on the precipice of irrelevance. Like you are going to be replaced. There are fast food places that already have touchscreens that look like they have snot all over them because no one knows how to use them. But if you can go into a Taco Bell and it's easier to use a touchscreen to order your taco grande than it is to talk to the snarky teenager, I will want the computer.
Well,
And
yeah,
when you go into the bagging thing, same thing. It's all
and
automated.
I just have to say that you're right. We're not going to get into the idea of a $15 minimum wage and all that.
Well, it
But
doesn't
but
matter
but
what
but
it doesn't
but
matter
it
what the
does.
minimum wage is.
But it
It just
does
matters.
matter. And
Yeah.
but that was my point, was that even if even if you increase the minimum wage to $15, or even if you keep it where it is, maybe at $15, automation makes sense cost wise in 5 years. Or if you keep the minimum
Well,
wage where it is, it makes sense in 10 years. It's still going to happen regardless.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't matter what the minimum wage is. The idea that the minimum wage could help accelerate the automation process, because it's true. At some point, because of the cost of living increases, your wage will increase. At some point, we will get there. Unfortunately, here's the thing. Unfortunately, if there's no return investment on that particular, then the only way that businesses can make up that difference is to raise the prices of the products or automate. And this is a fact. This is why your Walmarts, your Burger Kings, your McDonald's, your local Kroger, your grocery store, they're all getting automated machines because they're cheaper. And so anything we could do to sort of stave off that, to keep people employed, is a good thing. I'm not necessarily recommending that we keep the minimum wage down, or we don't do benefits, or we don't give health care. That's stupid. What I am saying though is that automation will be coming, because this is what happens. And if you refuse it, you're going to be a technological Luddite. And I'm certainly no Luddite,
Oh,
but
right,
such is progress.
It's kind of depressing how often this line of conversation comes up here on the show, because it's not just, I don't want to single out register workers or cashiers, what have you. There's a lot of industries and a lot of jobs that are going to be in
Mhm.
jeopardy. So
Oh yes, not just retail. Mechanics. You're talking about industry people. You're talking about flow. You're talking about if you go into a grocery store, there's lots of people you never see in the back.
well,
Those milk jugs don't replace themselves.
not even that. I mean, I was just talking to my producer the other day, and they were saying how they read an article that in the really near future, the idea of being a hedge fund manager or a stockbroker is going to be gone, because what do? They ingest as much information as possible, try to read the market and make decisions, and hand over fist, computers and artificial intelligence are doing that better, on a continuing basis. So in 5 years, why would you go with a person when AI will work for free and do it better than any? Like this
Well,
is
yes,
this
exactly.
is all
Yeah.
levels of jobs.
Did you see that Google I/O show that happened last week? That was all they talked about. It was new machine learning and AI. They have these AI bots that can reasonably report news better. Now, I don't want to put myself out of business here, but if the computers can keep out the snark and the politics, then give me the computers.
I
You know?
have, and just real quick, I have picked that out in the wild. Like you can, just barely tell when an article is written by a machine, because there's, like, you can kind of tell when the person kind of goes off on a tangent or does this or that or the other.
Oh, we never go on tangents here.
Right,
So,
right. But I mean, I have seen it in the wild. Even news reporters or even article writers are starting to be replaced. It's gonna happen.
mm. It's going to happen, and whether there's a compensatory side effect, because that's the thing. Everybody thinks, okay, we're going to put these people out of business, but that could create new opportunities, right? I mean, look at what we're talking about. We're talking about Google and Amazon and Facebook. These things were impossible to have. They weren't physically possible. You could not do these things 25 years ago. These are a result of automation of computers, right? Of the idea that putting Barnes and Noble or Borders and Walden Books out of business will lead to grocery shopping, you know? And I just want to make one more comment. The article I sent you is from Engadget, but I think it's been repeated elsewhere, so I think it's PR. Amazon keeps using this term. It's free if you're a Prime member. We've talked about this before. I want to say this: Prime costs money.
Yeah.
So if it's not free, like language people, it means something. And I think this is all. It's inclusive, because if you have Prime started out as what? Prime started out as a shipping. then it added video, then it added books, then music, then cloud storage, and everything. Pretty soon, if you have Amazon Prime, it'll come home and wipe your butt. And that's what Amazon wants to replace everything, and I get it. But if you're paying for a service and you get a additional service added to it, that doesn't make that service free. It's part of the package. Because trust me, if you stop paying for Prime, there's not going to be any cucumbers and fresh lemons.
Well, and the last
Language.
right, and of course, and the last point to, of course, mention about this article about Amazon, as they called it, Amazon Fresh Pickup, is indeed the fact that you are paying a premium because, let's face it, Amazon is no established grocery chain. The article spells out right there. You're going to be paying $1 a lemon, which is like twice or 3 times as much as a lemon should cost, and $6 for a gallon of milk, which is 2-3 times. Like, you're going to be paying a premium even if you're getting the pickup for free.
Yeah, exactly. So one last final little capper on this. Will you remind me of something?
Sure.
So I have Amazon Prime. I like Amazon Prime, and I share it with my staff. Right? We love Amazon Prime, but we've noticed that the things we were promised on Amazon Prime aren't all true. Like, sometimes you get 2-day shipping, but sometimes it takes like a month to ship a product. Sometimes you have to add more. You have to have a minimum. Sometimes, on average, the products on Amazon Prime, like whatever you get, on average, whatever you buy on Amazon Prime costs more because that's where the free, quote unquote, free shipping comes from. So yeah, and lastly, Ben,
Yep.
this is basically going to be Whole Foods. This is not going to be cheap Walmart prices. This is
Right.
going to be the equivalent of Whole Foods, which means everything will cost more. You're paying for the technology, and I'm okay with that as long as it's cool. I want Rosie the robot to help me, so we'll see what happens.
Well, Rosie the robot, I'm sure, is coming, but for now, it sounds like they're going to have, Rose the lady coming out to fill your trunk with groceries. So,
I'll take Rose.
Yeah,
Rose
yeah.
is cool.
Absolutely. So no, it's but that's of course very interesting for Amazon because we have seen this. Amazon, just like you mentioned with the bookstores, they have been known to kill entire industries and then try to build them back up again in their own image, as we see with the bookstores. So maybe with convenience stores and grocery stores, either they're trying to push the technology or they're trying to push the entire solution. But for Amazon, who knows?
That is so funny.
They're only worth $300 billion, so they're not
Well,
very, yeah.
I grew up. I'm older than you. I'm 80 years old, and sorry, I'm just kidding. But I'm old enough to know that when I was a kid, we had Bradley's, we had Ames, Caldor, we had Woolworth, we had 1,000 stores, and now we have Walmart.
Mhm.
And so, and Walmart does everything better than all these stores ever could on it. And people say, I like choice and I like mom and pops. You know what I like? I like buying a box of straws for 70 cents. I like buying a giant watermelon for $1. I'm sorry. I'm all part of it. I'm totally cool. And if you don't like it, then you pay for my $5 watermelon. So if at the end of the day, if Amazon's rising, by the way, look that word up, rising of a raising of all these stores can create a better thing, I'm all for it. Typically speaking, Amazon does a pretty good job. And so cautiously optimistic about my
Right.
$5 banana. So
Right. Yeah. And of course, we'll Amazon does tend to run into some dead ends sometimes. I mean, I'm not talking about the Fire Stick TV, but I am talking about the Fire Stick TV. But
the phone,
the
phone was a bust.
Yeah, the phone, they had like a little Fire Stick where you can plug into your TV, kind of like the Chromecast competitor. I mean, Amazon doesn't bat 1,000, but this is still very interesting, so a good story to point out. All right, let's move on to the next one because we have a number of different stories. By the way, anyone out there listening, if you want to check some of these stories out for yourself, or if you want to see the things that maybe we aren't going to be able to get to, check them out, computeramerica.com in the show notes. So, this next one, and friends of the show, Intel, and I for some reason I associate Thunderbolt with Apple, obviously because Apple uses Apples and Macs use the Thunderbolt technology, but hey, fun fact, Intel licenses the Thunderbolt technology, and you have here where adoption has been traditionally pretty slow because, like I said, certain motherboards have them for PCs, and Apple uses them, but they're 5% of the market. So what is Intel doing with the Thunderbolt technology to make it more attractive?
They are doing what they should have done at the beginning. They are going to start. They're basically going to start making Thunderbolt integral to their chipsets, which is something they should have done from the very, very beginning. Now, I've said this on the show. Sometimes I've been PC, sometimes I've been Mac. Sometimes I feel like a nut, sometimes I don't. But right now I'm PC. And when I built my current PC, I had one demand, and people thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy. Well, who's crazy now? No, I made sure that whatever motherboard I had Thunderbolt. And if you ever cruise the aisles of Micro Center, because that's all there is, and you'll find out that it's very hard to get a decent PC motherboard with Thunderbolt put in. Now, the Thunderbolt that they have today is not the Thunderbolt of yesteryear. For example, you can't hear it, but I'm knocking on my MacBook. My MacBook has two Thunderbolt ports, but they're the traditional Thunderbolt ports that kind of look like FireWire.
Hmm.
That's not what Thunderbolt looks like anymore. Thunderbolt is basically uh, the USB Type-C connector now, that little thing that kind of looks like lightning cable on your iPhone.
Right.
But here's the confusion, though. Here's the confusion. I think they need to work this out. That USB Type-C connector is also the port for USB 3.1. So you can have a port on your computer that looks like USB Type-C, but it could be USB 3.1. It could be Thunderbolt. There needs to be some distinction between the two. That being
As
said,
right.
it's a wonderful port.
Right. As I understand it, the only way is to get in real close. If you have bad eyesight, I apologize, but you're going to need to get your glasses. And USB has the USB logo, whereas Thunderbolt has the Thunderbolt logo right next to it. It's it's very
Yeah.
hard to see, but yeah, they have it.
And by the way, they may look the same, but they're totally different. Thunderbolt is the best port ever made on a computer, bar none. It can do anything. Anything that you want to do, it can do. High-speed transfer, multi-monitor display, charging, keyboards, mice, video editing, gaming, external GPUs. It's magic. It's from the future. And God bless Apple, but their strangle, because they owned part of the technology for years with Intel, kept them from doing it. Remember, Intel and Apple worked together to basically enhance the PCs when Macs used to be PowerPC, then they became Intel machines, which was great because then they became cheaper a little bit. You could put Windows on them, but Thunderbolt stayed Mac, and it held it back for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
Now that's not the case. My machine is Thunderbolt now, so when if I want to, I could do anything I want with it, like my Mac. That your next PC will have Thunderbolt is amazing. It's amazing. But again, they need to work on the branding a little bit. They need to work on the branding. I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be sad to see USB 3.1 go away. I find it a worthless port for the most part. The only thing that really uses it with any validity are external hard drives, and there's
Well,
some
right.
conflicts between hard drives and accessories. So
Right.
yeah,
I, this is one of the things that I genuinely do kind of really enjoy talking about, and it's
mhm.
I know it's a real real crowd pleaser. Really gets the women's getting noticing me at the bar is when I say, hey, I really like standardization of input ports into computers, and USB 3.1. When it first came out, it was newer than Thunderbolt 3 because Thunderbolt 3 had not been out yet, but it could do everything Thunderbolt 2 could because it had a 10 gig transfer speed rate, same as Thunderbolt, but it could power more devices. Like it could transfer more power, so it could charge, a full-blown laptop. It could charge any number of devices much faster than Thunderbolt, and that was the big selling point for the longest time. Was that if for devices, USB was the only way to go. Now, with Thunderbolt 3, as I just read up on it, if they are designed as such, Thunderbolts provide all the functionality of USB 3.1 and can actually use USB 3.1 ports, but they also transfer at 4 times the speed.
Yeah,
I mean,
much
it is
faster.
much faster.
There's absolutely nothing inferior about Thunderbolt except for the fact it's not adopted. Like I don't want to like toot my own horn, but toot. But if you go to Popzara right now, we actually have a review of a motherboard where the idea of it doesn't have Thunderbolt comes into play. It was frustrating because I have he's been on your show, my PC tech editor. I'm sorry, my game tech senior editor, Corey Gallagher.
Yeah.
He just built his first PC. He's never built one before, but he got oodles of money and he built a new PC. And I asked him, I said, "Do you need Thunderbolt?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't need it," because he doesn't think he needs it. But you'll see that a lot of these motherboards are Thunderbolt ready. Like you can add things, but it's so fragmented. It's based on company. Like the
Right.
motherboard I'm talking about is called a Strix gaming motherboard. You need
And
to have
and by the
ASUS
way,
only.
Nate, we'll be right back. The music means you have to take a break, and I can't hear it. But everyone, we'll be
Sure.
right back with Nathan Evans, Popzara Magazine, and Computer America right after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is, let me get this right, 31 minutes past the hour as we continue on here with Nathan Evans. And before we actually, you know what? Actually, let's finish up our thoughts on the Thunderbolt, and then we'll announce the social media winner for Logitech after that. So, yeah, and for anyone just joining us, welcome to the program. Nathan Evans, Popzara Magazine, and Computer America, back at it again. And, great for Corey. I wish I just talked to him, a couple of weeks ago, because I actually did some renovations on my home computer. Did an i7 7700K, did an ASUS motherboard.
Which one did you get?
The Intel i7 7700K.
Let me see, because I think that's actually one he got too. Because we offer, I think Intel sent us the i5, but that wasn't good enough for him.
No. Yeah,
too much money.
The i7 is kind of top of line. Although I have heard about a new line of them, and they're for server
i7,
computers.
Yep. That's it. 7700. Yep. So you and Corey are simpatico.
Yep. Got that one, and I got 32 gigs of RAM that I didn't need. It's awesome.
You guys are like brothers from another mother. It's amazing.
Trust me, it's this weird thing where if you built a computer within the last 3 months, there's a certain set of best parts. Like, I think there's a new one coming up, but right now, I would not be surprised if we even bought the same RAM. And although you said he bought an Ace-Tech motherboard, I bought an ASUS motherboard. But other than that, I would not be surprised if we pretty much bought the same thing.
Asus, banana.
Right.
I will check. I will do some research on the RAM he got. It's on the review while we're talking. By the way, can I just comment? I love your intro when you come back from the commercial. Like when you say, "Hey, it's May 26. It's a balmy 33 degrees here." It's just you would do so great on FM radio late night.
Well, we're currently FM radio in the afternoon, so we're hoping that's gonna be good. Luckily, we're nationwide.
Vengeance from Corsair, by the way.
That's what I got. Yep.
DDR4 2400.
No. I did not get DDR4 because my motherboard is too good for that. It would not be compatible. I got DDR5, and mine was 3200 megahertz, or gigahertz.
You're already into the future.
Yeah, no, I definitely wanted my computer to be pretty future-proof. And by the way, the motherboard that I got, again, ASUS, does have a Thunderbolt 3 port on it. Like, I don't use it for anything because I have nothing to use it with, but it has one.
There.
Yeah, it's not bad. So for anyone out there just joining us, we're kind of bantering back and forth about Thunderbolt 3. It is definitely hands down better than USB 3.1.
It's exciting. It's exciting. It's cool because of all the things it can do. Like, it's not just about hard drives. Like I talked to you about this on the show before, but if you have a slimline PC, right? Like Razer did this. If you have a slimline PC that's thinner than a slice of bologna, then you can add an external GPU to make your workstation more powerful.
Yeah.
There's so many things that's possible once the adoption comes. So yeah, this is like Sean Connery said in that awful Avengers movie. Yeah, there was more than one. This is merely the beginning, so we'll see what happens.
Well, right, and Thunderbolt 3, for anyone out there, like, you can go get it now, but it's really going to shine. I really do feel like in maybe 2 or 3 years, when I was reading up on some of the specs, and currently for PCs, 60 megahertz is kind of the standard refresh rate for the screens. And when 4K computer monitors and 144 megahertz refresh rates becomes the standard, which again is going to be in a few years, that is what you're going to need Thunderbolt for. The USB 3.1 simply will not cut it. So
yes,
yep,
exactly. Yeah. So PSA, if make sure your next computer has Thunderbolt
right.
of some type.
At least one for that next big purchase that you do. Get at least one.
Yes.
So right,
at least one port.
So Thunderbolt 3, awesome stuff, and looking forward to to really figuring out what it can do. But in the meantime, before we move on to our next story, Nathan, we are going to just take a moment to announce our winner. And this is, for anyone out there who does not know, we have this new service. It's called Gleam.io. It's a lot of fun, and it gives you X number of ways to enter. Currently, we have, I think, about 13 ways to enter, so you can have 13 different entries to win. And we just picked a winner. This week's winner, let me make sure I get this right. He hails from Facebook. He entered through Facebook. He liked our page through Facebook, and he got an entry that way. And his name is Mr. Jerry M. I'm not going to give his full last name. So Jerry M. He listens to us in Oak Forest, Illinois. And Jerry, if you're listening, thank you so much for participating in our contest. And to the hundreds and thousands of you that also entered, better luck next time. And by next time, I mean next Friday, where we're going to do it all again. So check it out, computeramerica.com, social media contest. And Jerry, thank you so much. So with that out of the way, and again, that was brought to you by Logitech. We're giving away, we just changed the prize like 2 weeks ago. It's the M720 Triathlon mouse. Triathlon, I think they mostly took it kind of like for the word try, because it can control 3 devices at once. So they all connect through Bluetooth, and then pressing one button, you can go from device to device to device without having to, pop out the dongle or resync it every single time. It's a pretty cool piece of technology, and yeah. So next Friday, one of those, and now we're going to continue on with Nathan Evans. So Thunderbolt 3, and again, I don't know why display standards interest me so much. Like it's like that's like one of my things is display display standards and input method kind of thing, and wireless standards, because 802.11ac AX is coming out here soon. AD is already on the market in small quantities. Like, I don't know. That's
I agree with you. I think standardization is actually pretty sexy, and I think we've talked about this on the show. And if you look at all of history, even before computers, it's a dominant thing. It doesn't have to be the best, it doesn't have to be the brightest, doesn't have to be the most efficient. But if the standardization pushes forward civilization more than anything else,
and yet
anything else,
and yet here we are still with Phillips and flatheads and metric and imperial measurements. I don't get tools.
Well, at the same point though, the world always works on bifurcation. So as much as we want a standard, we always need at least one opposing standard, because competition is what breeds innovation. So yeah, for the love of me, I don't know why we still have flatheads. I mean, the only thing you could do with those things is like stab like ghosts and Jason and Freddy Krueger. But Phillips are better in every single possible way. If you're a carpenter and I'm wrong, and you somehow think half of a screwdriver is better than the security of a Phillips, you explain to me why I'm wrong. But yeah, it happens though. It happens. So I love it. I love standardization.
Yep. It's certainly fun to talk about, but we have more fun things to talk about here, and this next one. And let's see. Let's do something fun, because it is the weekend. A lot of people may be out seeing a movie, and I just saw a movie last Friday, Alien Covenants. I'm gonna let you make up your own mind. Not gonna mention it, but I will say that for the preview, and this is something that kind of got my goat when I was sitting in the theater, was there were 2 movies back to back. 2 previews back to back, and it was Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which was immediately followed by Michael Bay's seminal piece of cinema, which is Transformers: The Last Knight. So we have
hmm
The Last Jedi and The Last Knight, where Jedi is obviously some kind of pseudo knight, Knights of the Round Table organization. So it's like, having them back to back really showed me how similar, the two franchises have become and how formulaic it all is. But regardless, Star Wars turns 40. That's where I was going with all of that.
Yes.
What's the big deal? I mean, let's not mince words. Star Wars is as popular as ever, pretty much thanks to Disney. But in 40 years, it has really grown to be a massive subculture.
I think I can explain that by a little anecdote. Uh, you ever watch the movie Spaceballs by Mel
Yeah,
Brooks?
of course,
Okay,
of course.
the movie got terrible reviews when it came out. It got terrible reviews. It bombed. And there was a review from Roger Ebert, the best movie critic who ever lived. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong. He basically gave it a bad review and said, "Oh, this movie would have worked better if we were still interested in Star Wars," or some version of that. He says, "Our interest in Star Wars is gone." This was back in 1987. So 30 years ago, he said that. 30 years later, Star Wars, as you said, is more popular than ever before. And it's interesting you bring up Transformers because that is a similar franchise from a similar era that is, again, more popular now than it was 30 years ago. And you've seen similar attempts to bring back old franchises. You've seen Power Rangers, G.I. Joe. Not everything is successful. You have to make sure the core thing is right. And the thing about Star Wars, I think that worked in its favor, is that there weren't that many Star Wars movies for the longest time. And it's going to be interesting to know that there's going to be more new Star Wars in the next 10 years than there have been in the last 40.
Are
So,
are you not counting Star Wars the Christmas special?
no, we don't count the Star Wars Christmas special with Chewbacca watching
Yeah,
holographic porn. But I
yeah.
will say, whether you think Star Wars, The Force Awakens, or Star Wars Rogue One, or the Han Solo movie, or Last Jedi, that's four right there, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
is are as good as the old stuff. The thing about Star Wars and the thing about the fans is that these things are so decisive, and that's what makes them successful. People say, "I hate the Phantom Menace. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it," but they can't stop talking about it because it's like if you said you didn't like Alien Covenant, right?
I didn't say that. I said I would not tell anyone, but yes, I didn't like it.
Ah, look, in the world of radio, friends, boys and girls, if you don't rave about something, it means you didn't like it.
Yeah.
But check this, check this out. We only have one dial, and that's up. But I'll tell you this, that that doesn't seem like the type of movie that you can argue about with any sort of irreverent passion. You know, Star Wars, you could talk about Chewbacca did this, Han Solo shot first, Jabba the Hutt. There's so many things. And go back and watch the original trilogy, Star Wars, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. All three movies are so tonally different. Tonally, by the way. There's such world building. There's so much stuff. You can watch it and see something new. The people that created these films are on top of their game in a way that has never been done, and I probably never will be done again, because they were the singular focuses of someone like Lucas, of Jim Henson, Frank Oz, John Williams. Now everything's so committee-like. You bring that up when you watch the trailers, and I thought this too. Like, I watch movies with special effects, but I'm not. They're not special anymore. They're just CG. It's not special anymore. Uh, so I watched a movie this month that I hadn't watched in 20 years. I watched a movie called, I think it came out in 1988 or 87, called The Blob. Right? You ever see The Blob? The,
That where they're on like the Arctic station, and it's a horror movie,
no,
and
that's The Thing.
that's the thing. I have
Which,
not
by the
seen The
way,
Blob.
okay, The Thing is, some people call The Thing the greatest remake of any movie of all time. I'm not going to argue. The Blob is up there. And in the 1980s, you had a bunch of remakes of movies from the 50s. The Thing, The Fly, The Blob. You see the pattern here, right? And The Blob was one of the goriest movies I've ever seen. It was actually written by Frank Darabont, the guy who did Shawshank Redemption and The Walking Dead. The movie was a complete bomb, right? But the special effects are so good.
Right.
Everything you see on the screen happened in real life. It's better than anything I see today. And so,
That's the same. That is
yeah.
the same kind of argument that they give for why, Jurassic Park still stands up today.
Mm.
It's practical versus special.
Yeah, and the director of the new Star Wars movie, his name is Rian Johnson, who's became somewhat famous for directing Game of Thrones. I directed a movie called Looper, which I watched Looper. The special effects are horrible in that movie, but at the end of the day, Star Wars is not about special effects. And Star Wars may be the only movie ever made where people complain when they try to improve the special effects. You never hear that. It's like, oh, these special effects are terrible. No, leave them bad. They like the bad special effects. You realize World War III would start if they tried to replace Yoda with a CG in the old movies?
Yeah.
People would riot, but
Yeah, the
they don't.
puppets. Yeah,
Yeah, the puppets.
puppets.
Oh, excuse me, Muppets. Muppets. Yeah.
The right, the Muppets. And I actually when I went to go Google the 40th anniversary, Star Wars turns 40. I found a lot of articles, written by a lot of very reputable publications, and I actually found this one here, written by The Onion, which is one of my favorite.
Oh, fun! Yeah.
And yeah, it's the timeline starts, of course, at 4000 BC, which is everything that Star Wars is stolen from. And it goes all the way through until like 1993. George Lucas begins to work on the prequels by brainstorming some possible merchandising opportunities. Like, I mean, Star Wars is what I mean. Star Wars is what Disney and I think what George Lucas pretty much intended it for a while. They built up a universe, and as much as people I think invest themselves in it, at the same time, it's a 40-year franchise that is so easily transferable to toys, products, movies, posters, clothing. It's just a giant cash cow.
Okay, my point was with the Blob. By the way, go see the Blob. If you guys have nightmares, ban at computeramerica.com. So, here's the thing. In the 90s, they didn't have this formula figured out. They knew Star Wars sold toys, right? Oh, if Star Wars can sell toys, then everything. They had Rambo. Remember Rambo, that R-rated action franchise where the guy got exploded with you know what I mean? Exploded.
Yeah. Yep.
Children's toys. Freddy Krueger, the child molesting child killer who burned children in the furnace. Guess what? Children's toys. A doll for kids. They didn't know the formula yet, so everything had a toy. Now everything is back to being Star Wars. But let me just say this. I had a very surreal experience for the first time in my life when I went to go see Rogue One.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very surreal because I was seeing Star Wars with people that I had seen Star Wars with for about 20 years, friends. I remember seeing Star Wars in the theaters in the 80s. I remember seeing Star Wars in the remakes in the 90s. I remember seeing the prequels in the 2000s, and now I'm seeing the new ones. And I'm actually seeing children who I remember being children with children of their own, and they're bringing it's collecting, and there's no diminishment of excitement. Star Wars has remained fresh in a way that nothing I've ever seen in my life has remained fresh and relevant. Nothing. And if the movies were all that bad, this wouldn't happen. If the movies really sucked, that wouldn't happen. If the movies were really if it was just about to sell toys, that wouldn't happen. There's something else. And everybody who just cherry picks a gripe, oh, it's a toy thing. Oh, George Lucas stole my childhood, whatever. You may be right. But at the end of the day, it's still there. And you know what? And maybe the franchise will sour. Maybe we'll get tired of these new prequels, or sequels. Maybe we'll get tired of all this. You know what? It's like Woody told Buzz at the end of Toy Story 2. You know what? We're gonna enjoy the ride.
Mm-hmm.
So bring on Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker again. I've been waiting 35 damn years for that. So bring it on.
Right. Yeah, and of course, Disney, like you said, they have no intentions of letting any of their IPs slip slowly into the darkness. They will be hitting Star Wars over your head for the next 15, 20 foreseeable future years. It will happen. So
could I bring in one quick side?
Go for it.
Because I forgot to mention this on Popzara, so I want to mention on your show. Roger Moore died this week.
Right. Bond, yeah.
James Bond. And I got to say something. I was looking up Star Wars and Roger Moore stuff. I know, it sounds funny. Because, Moonraker is the highest grossing Roger Moore movie, right? Which is a total rip. That's how popular Star Wars was. Moonraker became the highest grossing James Bond movie up until recent years because it was a shameless tie-in to Star Wars. But I came across a video. If anybody wants to smile going into this weekend with all the bad news happening around the world, Sir Roger Moore, there's a clip of him on the Muppet Show. Speaking of Muppets, right? And he's singing "Talk with the Animals" to these Muppets, and then it's all this gentle song of him singing talk, and then all of a sudden the Muppets try to kill him because he's James Bond, and he starts judo chopping him, kicking him, and shooting him with laser beams. But he's smiling and so charming, and it made me smile, and it makes me miss him all the more. I'm sorry. Right. R.I.P. Roger Moore and Muppets.
Oh, very well said, and definitely have to check that out. We'll include it in the show notes just for fun as well. So, right, and but let us move on to some other things. And this next one, we have two topics that are kind of the same thing. I'll let you choose if you want to start with Baidu's text-to-speech or Mark Zuckerberg's and Facebook's, which is essentially captions or text-to-speech. So, which one did you want to start with?
Why not both? No. Now, Baidu, of course, is basically the Chinese Google. And at some point, it's probably going to happen. They're going to surpass Google. I think there's already some evidence that a lot of these Chinese derivatives of American products, like Weibo or WeChat, which is the Chinese Twitter, is already more popular than Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like saying Mandarin is more popular than English because more people speak Mandarin. Hey, Wadu Zhonghua Hua, I speak Chinese too. It doesn't mean I'm going to use it to order at McDonald's, right?
Right.
So what I am going to say is Baidu is interesting because Baidu is one of those companies that has the full support of the Chinese government. And we all know that the Chinese government is very restrictive to American companies. We know this. We know this for a fact. They're not restrictive to Baidu. So they probably have the greatest minds in China working at Baidu. And they are working, we talked about artificial intelligence. And we talked about Amazon, how Amazon has Echo and how it can't recognize multiple voices and how the Google Home thing can be manipulated by a television commercial.
Mm-hmm.
You think to yourself, why didn't Google think about this? But Baidu's been working on accents and it's been working on multiple things. And you know why this is? Because in China there's accents, and in America we have the northern accent where we pronounce every syllable. Then we have the southern accent, like hey y'all, where y'all going? People think hey y'all, where y'all going? We have a cultural thing with dumb hillbilly hick. Not totally true, but that's the thing. In China they have the same thing, except they're very prejudiced over there. They're prejudiced in a way that wouldn't fly here. So the idea that we have accents and technology and working it out, I think it's impressive, and I think I would love to see what Baidu does to spill it over, because I would love to see Baidu create something besides cheap products. That would be wonderful, So
And this is the idea that voice recognition. I mean, that is an area that is getting a lot of attention from, like you said, Google, of course, Baidu. Good to hear that they're working on it. But Amazon, I mean, like altogether, there's $1 trillion worth of company behind pushing products so that you can order products through their services more easily. Google just came out with one where Google can identify. Obviously you have to train it to your voice, but they can identify multiple users by the sound of your voice. I mean, it's going to be good. It's just, is it going to be good for everyone? Because like you said, it struggles with accents.
Well, think about it. Every iPhone has Siri, right?
Right.
And every Google phone has Google Assistant, all these things. And you saw with that Burger King commercial or whatever it was, how easy it is to hack into these things, because that's what it is. It's a hack. And then you find out TVs have it, everything. To me, there's a giant loophole waiting to be exploited. And what's funny is that, going back to Apple, because Apple's security conscious unlike any other company, you never hear about iPhones being hacked the way you do with Google phones. Did you know you cannot use OK Siri or Hey Siri unless your iPhone's plugged into power?
Yep.
It needs to be plugged in. And Apple's supposed to be joining the market, which I think Apple, you totally missed the boat on this. But they're supposed to be coming out with their own version of Amazon Echo, like a Siri Cube or something. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when they do this. I think this is exciting. The way we talked about standardizations, the idea that we now have neural processing to distinguish between individual human voices this way, the same way it's sort of imprinted with DNA. I think that's exciting. It's also a huge privacy issue too. The same way we have facial recognition at places like that. Not to bring it up, but we just had the bombing in Manchester, and they were able to identify the suicide bomber in a second because of facial recognition, which leads me to believe that the head didn't explode. So, but if they can have voices, they can this adds a layer of either security or a layer of privacy invasion, depending on who's using the power.
I mean, and privacy, that is something that I could probably have a dozen experts on, and they'll all tell you a doomsday scenario, and all of them would be underselling you. I mean, like, what is currently possible, what is currently being utilized. I've heard reports that, like I grew up in Florida, and it was fun to hear that through facial recognition collection, through driver's license, through criminal arrest and things like that, 1 out of every 2 Florida residents is in a facial recognition database, which is then shared with, every law enforcement agency, around the U.S. or even around the world. I mean, like, when you say invasion of privacy, I feel like if I tell you, if I really tried to spell out how far gone privacy really is right now, you'd say, well, what are you going to do about it? Like that's kind of how I feel. It's already happened,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's a question of how much do you want to sleep at night, and how much do you want to know
Well,
what's
I
possible?
think we're beyond that. I think we're beyond 1984. I think it's the battle's been lost. And I think the moment people put pictures of their cat, and the moment people started robbing banks and live streaming it on Facebook, is the day we've lost any semblance of privacy. Where the allure of narcissism is too much. The problem is I want to think about privacy in a different way, Ben. I don't think of privacy as in here's what I'm doing, here's this. The idea that you're inside of your house, like when it comes to legal things, it used to be that cops couldn't come in your house without a search warrant. They had to wait till you throw something in the trash, but we've been in. Now we can find out that because there's a router in your home, then your router is now on limits. And the idea that companies like Twitter and Facebook and Google have now integrated systems that have basically swamped your house in a wave of Wi-Fi, like Batman did. The idea that everything is up for grabs on privacy, that Samsung TVs will capture you nude, or they'll every keystroke you do on an HP laptop is captured, everything. And it just look what happens in the media today, where everything gets leaked to reporters regarding whatever your political spectrum is. Everything gets leaked. There's no idea that anything, like the general audience is entitled to everything you do
Hmm?
on every occasion. And either you can exploit that and you could say, let me sell you some McDonald's hamburgers with this cool Mario toy, or we will ransomware your system because we know exactly what medications your daughter takes. I don't know how the future is going to be, but I don't think it will involve Terminators. I don't
No,
think, I mean, it could, but I don't think so. Uh, but
it's kind of like that scene from The Matrix where it's like, oh, look at all these babies in incubators, or humans in incubators that
yeah,
are like batteries or something like that, whatever it was. Except instead of pools of goo harvesting heat, it's going to be pools of people harvesting data and personal information about you. Like that's pretty much where we're heading. It's just
yeah, exactly.
data, 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 data.
I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a bad thing, but maybe we may need to rethink our idea of privacy. Like when you go outside, you wouldn't go outside naked, showing your goods to all the world. But maybe you have to think like that in your home now, because maybe your TV
Like
might be watching you.
I don't know. When you say we need to rethink our stance on privacy, like when you say that in today's world, like right now, that like I'm picturing in my mind someone who's standing in the middle of of a fire, of a bonfire, and going, maybe I should rethink my views on fire safety. Like
Well,
you can rethink it, but
well,
at the same time, you're in the middle of it.
well, true. But let me ask you a question though, devil's advocate. So, you're having a private conversation with your family about politics.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say your particular politics don't line up with CNN, or your politics don't line up with Fox News, right? If you're if that conversation is captured, and the fact that you have an opinion that's different from, your opinion X is different than opinion Y, that opinion could be used against you
Are
even if you
you
haven't done anything wrong.
Are you alluding to the essentially the, I don't want to call it, it's like lifestyle rating, credit rating in China, where if you share your opinions, or even if you have associates or friends who share opinions counter to, let's say, the government, it affects your credit rating, quote unquote, because
It
that's
could.
happening.
I
Yeah.
mean, of course. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. We may need to rethink the idea of privacy. Back in the day, 60 years ago, if people wanted to buy a pornographic magazine, they'd have to order from a mail, and they get the magazine in paper where no one could see it, in the privacy of their own home. You understand? But now, the idea is that if people found out you ordered pornography, it could ruin your social life. Well, that's just been expanded in a way, in a creative new way, where, for example, you may hold an opinion that everybody in your community thinks is one way, but the people next door to you in the next community may disagree with you. The problem is which community has the more power. And I'm not trying to be, again, this is not politics as
Right. Right.
R&D, but the fact is, you have people, for example, on Twitter. If you don't vote a certain way, or if you voted for a certain candidate, or if you have an opinion about a certain author, like I've actually seen people who call people who read, who wrote Cthulhu. What's the guy's name?
Oh
Uh,
my God. Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
talking
completely
about. I,
forgot.
I, I can't believe I don't remember this. But if the guy who wrote Cthulhu was a racist, technically, even by 1930 standards, there's going to be a time when, if you read Cthulhu,
Lovecraft. Lovecraft.
Lovecraft,
Lovecraft.
yes, thank you, H.P. Lovecraft. If you read Cthulhu, then you may be considered a racist by association, because that's you see this type of thinking present on Twitter. You see this type of rush to judgment. You see this type of thing like, I like all the right things.
Yep. And just real quick, I'm going to have to leave it there. We have less than a minute left. And Nathan, I'm sorry to cut you off like that, but we never have enough time. And again, you can find this and more over at Computer America, and of course Popzara. For more links and articles and things of this nature, if you enjoyed any or all of this. Well, and real quick, Nathan, what are you up to? What's happening over at Popzara?
Good things. Getting ready for E3 coverage, which of course the big show is next month. I will, full disclosure, I don't think we're going to be attending this year, but we will be covering it. Lots of cool stuff. Apple's coming out with new stuff. Microsoft, Google, everything. Movies coming out, tons of movies. Go read the new review for Pirates of the Caribbean if you like it or not. Alien Covenant, which is your favorite movie of the year apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff will make you smile, make you laugh, won't make you want to tear your hair out, and frankly, that's a good thing.
That's what we like. So, and with that being said, everyone, we are just flat out of time. I want to say one more time, thank you, Nate, for coming on, and looking forward to next month as well. And
Yay.
to everyone else out there, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. Catch us same time, same place, Tuesday. Remember, Monday we have off, Memorial Day. I hope everyone has a great long weekend, and we'll catch you then.
Safe weekend. Safe weekend, everybody.
Safe weekend. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.